Welcome to the Grassroots podcast,
a platform for agricultural producers to share their stories and engage with consumers.
We are your hosts, Erin
and Laura. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Grassroots podcast. In this episode, we interviewed Allie Kelly, the face of Longbourn Farm food and farm blog. Allie uses the roaring success of her blog and her Instagram account to debunk myths in agriculture. She's not afraid to crack open the tough subjects like raising animals for food. Her blog and her social media are beautiful, approachable, and factual. She was truly a treat to interview, so without further ado, let's get to her story. Hi, Allie. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, we are just excited to have you, and we're very lucky you have quite the following. Why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Longbourn Farm?
Perfect. So I'm Allie. I have a food and farm blog where I share simple homemade recipes and farm and gardening tips, and then I kind of bring people in with food, and then I give them a little bit of agriculture education while they're there. And it's proven to be really, really popular with my audience. So it's what's working, and that's what we'll keep doing. We just have a really small farm. It's just a few acres, and we do chickens. Right now we have sheep. We do a steer every couple of years, and then my garden, which I think we'll talk about a little bit later with the CSA and stuff. And everyone thinks my husband is the farmer. That is not true. He's a mechanic. I mean, he likes it and he'll help me, but it's like my deal. Like it was all me. I was the one who got us into all. So the other thing that I've gotten to do this year that's been super fun is work with Beef It's What's for Dinner with the National Cattlemen's Association. And so that's been really fun to kind of promote something I already love, which is beef. I mean, who doesn't love beef? But that's like a more official way that I can promote it, and that's been really fun.
Very cool. How about your family and your education? How did you get to where you're at today?
Yeah, so ever since I was a little kid, I was just born with this desire to want to be a farmer and live on a farm. No one in my family is even close to being a farmer, and we would go to vacation in Island Park, Idaho every year, and we lived in Utah County, and we drove, through a lot of farmland to get there, and the entire drive I would just look out the window and be like, one day I'm going to live in the middle of the field. It's just been my dream forever. I just came that way. So growing up, I rode horses, but obviously they weren't at our house. I had to board them, which was fine, and that was really fun. I was just one of those crazy horse girls. And then when I was like, I'm going to be an equine surgeon in Kentucky, which obviously did not pan out. But it was really, I love my education so much. So I started with that goal, and then it shifted because I started working in biotechnology labs on campus. I only had jobs on campus in labs, and I realized I really loved research, and also I was good at it. I'm not good at book learning, taking exams, I'm really not good at it. My every grade above a D in my degree was worked so hard for. But labs, I was good at. I loved labs, and I loved the hands-on. That's where I learned the best. So I worked in molecular cloning and reproductive labs all through my undergraduate degree, and we did a lot of the cloning that you hear about in the news from Utah State, and it was really fun, really cool educational experience. And then, so anyway, that really taught me a lot about how biotechnology can influence agriculture, and how animals provide us with food, but they also provide us with so much more than that. and it's just amazing how much technology can help and, improve everybody's lives, animals' lives and our lives. And then for my master's degree, I did animal nutrition, and that was kind of a change of gears, but it was really, really fun too, because it was kind of more hands-on. I did it at the school dairy. So
how did you get from your master's to jumping into this food blog and the CSA that you did?
So that is a funny story, because I vividly remember 2 times during my education where I knew exactly what I wanted to do for a career, and it did not exist. So the first time was in actually my beef production class in undergrad. And the kind of the way that class was set up is the instructor kind of taught us like the first half of the semester, all the basics of the beef industry. And then he had presenters come in from all different areas of the beef industry. So cow-calf, seed stock, and then, like the whole industry just came in and presented. And their number one concern across the board was consumer demands that were driven by misunderstanding of agriculture practices or fear. And these people did not talk to each other before their presentations, and across the board, that was their number one concern. And I was like, I can fix this. And so I felt like I was in a really good spot of understanding the farmers and ranchers, but also understanding these consumers that didn't know anything, being able to communicate really clearly between the two. So I realized that, and then I was like, okay, great, that doesn't exist. I think I'll just get a master's because I don't know what I'm going to do. So then during my master's degree, I was in a pasture management class. And they were talking about how in Utah in particular, the majority of farmable acreage is owned in these small acreage parcels by people who are like 1, 2, or 3 generations removed from the farm. So it's kind of like they would visit grandma and grandpa's farm or a cousin's farm. They really were attracted to the lifestyle. And then when they were an adult professional with enough money, they would buy these small acreages, but then they didn't know how to manage them. So there's a lot of mismanaged property in Utah. And I also thought I can fix that because I'm not a farmer. I didn't grow up on a farm. I don't have that kind of experience, but I am really good at taking those big agricultural ideas and then kind of distilling them down for a small farmer and how they can utilize their acreage really effectively, but also go on vacation and stuff.
And you present it so well, and I feel like every day you're sharing those tips for the consumer, and you're doing exactly that, bridging the gap between consumers and producers.
This episode is brought to you by the Utah Farm Bureau Federation, whose motto is to inspire all Utah families to connect, succeed, and grow through the miracle of agriculture. For more information, visit www.utahfarmbureau.org.
So you had the opportunity to sell direct to consumer with your CSA. Tell us a little about that.
Yes. So that was really fun. I built 25 raised beds in my garden, and then I had some other planting areas. And at first I just wanted to do the CSA to pay for this awesome garden that I wanted to build. But then as it grew, I was like, this is a perfect opportunity to have people come, and then I can teach in person about, gardening. And then I also had eggs. So they did produce and eggs. And so I just had people purchase a share, so they could purchase a full share or a half share. And then they would come out. I had everybody vote on a day. So they voted on Monday nights. So every Monday night they would come out to the farm, collect their eggs, pick their vegetables, and then I would do a little recipe demo with something that they may not know how to use, like beets. And it was so fun. My number one goal for the CSA was to teach them how to do it themselves. So which is kind of like shooting myself in the foot, right? Because I'm getting rid of my own customers. But like that's why people wanted to come, because they could come and they could experience, getting out to the farm and learn a lot about gardening and hopefully do it themselves. So I loved interacting with the consumers and selling direct to them. And up front, I was very clear about like what methods I was using, how the food was going to be produced, what they could expect as far as like, if there was bugs or disease, like how I would handle that. So there wasn't any like misunderstanding or frustration on their part, I feel like, because I set that up really clearly. But everybody loved it. I loved it. They loved it. So it was really fun.
So with all this educating that you're doing, you also do those Q&As on your social media. So between the CSA experience and your Q&A series, what are some of the biggest misconceptions that you've heard about the agricultural industry?
So this was surprising when I first started. Labeling is people's pretty much the biggest concern, or the most questions I get are about labeling. So they'll say, okay, if I go to the store and I see natural on chicken, what does that mean? Or like if I see hormone free, like what hormones are they talking about? So labeling is very confusing for the consumer, is something that I've learned. And so it's been really good to be able to talk more about that and kind of clear up some things. Like for poultry, added hormones in poultry is illegal. So when you pay for hormone-free poultry, you're just paying for words, right? And so when people hear that, that's really empowering for them, because they can go into the grocery store then and make an educated choice that's good for their family nutritionally and for their budget. So that's one of them. And then the other one that I hear a lot about is I'll share things that seem really obvious to me with animal handling, and people will be shocked that there's a reason behind it and it's actually for the good of the animal. So an example is like a lot of times in those animal abuse videos, they'll show a cow being moved with like a skitter bucket or like a backhoe bucket or something, as like something that's negative. But I'll explain, like, if a cow's down, you have to get her to stand up if you're going to save her life. And that's really, really important. And like, you physically just can't move a huge animal like that. So all they're doing is they're just using that to help lift her up. And then they're going to move her to like she probably fell and was all splayed out. They're going to move her somewhere safe. They're going to try to help her stand up and get better. Like, it's to help her. And people are like, seriously? Well, why wouldn't you do that? So once they understand, they're like, oh, this is so obvious. Of course you would do that for the cow, or, whatever I'm talking about. So I didn't realize animal handling was so misunderstood. Maybe because it's something that's probably intuitive for most people who work livestock, but it's really not something that everyone is like comfortable with or understands, really.
Yeah. I remember one time somebody asked you about the sustainability of beef, and you really went to bat for the beef industry. And I was just kind of curious how you got involved with the Beef It's What's for Dinner Alexa thing that you're doing.
Oh, yeah. So I think I reached out to them. But I just love following commodity groups on Instagram. So like Beef It's What's for Dinner, the Dairy Council, Eat Wheat just started a really great Instagram account and social media things. But I've always like loved those commercials of Beef It's What's for Dinner, probably just because I really love to eat beef. But like back when I was a kid and you actually had to like sit through commercials and watch your cartoons on actual TV, like those Beef It's What's for Dinner would always come up. And so after I graduated and started my blog, I was like, they would be really fun to work with, because I saw that they would work with influencers. So I just reached out to them. I was already a fan, so it was really, like natural. And I just reached out to them, let them know I'd be really interested in working together. And we were able to do that soft launch for Check Nose Beef together, and that went really well. So we decided to do the official launch, was that kind of longer style video with the steak that I did. And it's just like a dream partner for me because I just get to support farmers and ranchers, which is exactly what I want to do. And I also learn a lot because they actually just added me to their beef expert bureau, which I'm really honored and excited about. And so that means I'm on a panel with a bunch of other beef people, and there's nutritionists and chefs. And we had a call yesterday, and I was amazed at just the different expertise that they bring to the table with promoting beef and not just promoting beef, but promoting it accurately. So like representing the right portion size that you should eat and, just all that kind of stuff. It's been really fun to work with them.
So cool. It's been fun to watch you work with them. So of all of the Q&As that you get, is there a topic that you're most passionate about? Is there something that you feel like needs extra advocacy in today?
For sure. And this has always been a part of like my main message for my blog. This is one thing that has not changed through all of the like working to where I am now. And that is that choice in the grocery store is the ultimate freedom. Choice in general is the ultimate freedom. But when you walk into the grocery store and you have so many options, that is a privilege. That is a huge privilege that so many people don't have in our own country. And I think it's extremely unfair to market or push to eliminate choices. Difference is beautiful. Like you and I are different and we're friends. I have friends that believe different things than me, and it's okay. Like we can believe different things and not only tolerate each other, but be really, really good friends. And that's what I think is missing in our culture right now is beauty and choices. So when you walk into the grocery store, you can choose conventional food or organic food or natural food. That is wonderful. And I think that's something that needs to be promoted more. Another thing I'm super passionate about is if you do have a small farm and you want to start, just do it.
I love that. You got to start somewhere, right? Okay, so let me ask you this, Allie. When you have a question that you want to get to the root of, what resources do you use to know that you're sharing factual information with your followers?
Great question. So whenever if you're on Facebook, you'll see what's going around because they tend to just show up in your feed. Like I don't even have to try to find something. Usually I just see a bunch of people sharing it. And I'll just use an example. There was this photo of a strawberry field, and there were three people like in suits walking with sprayers in it. And the caption was something ridiculous about Roundup and GMOs that was completely inaccurate. And so what I do is I look at that. I see how many times I've seen it personally, and that tells me my audience probably seen it. And so then I just throw it up on my stories and put a poll, and I'm like, do you guys want me to talk about this? And if they say yes, which like I get 90% usually, people want to know. They want to know the truth and the information. And I spend a lot of time researching and being really respectful in how I communicate so my audience trusts me. And they know that it's a safe place to come and ask questions and that I'm going to get the best information. And the way that I go about getting information is there's a few different websites. I really like GMO Answers. It's funded like independently, so the people that contribute there are not being paid by any sort of organization. They just are experts in the field and they contribute, so their information is really factual. I really like Ag Daily for more like article type stuff, and there are a few people that write on there that I really like the Farm Babe is really good about linking Michelle. I should call her by her real name, Michelle the Farm Babe. She's really good about linking to like research papers in her articles. And so she writes in a way that's kind of easier to understand than just sending my audience to a research paper. Like I can read a research paper, but it's a skill. Like it took me, all of college to develop that skill. I don't expect everyone to have that skill. So it's nice when people like her, and then there's New Mexico Milkmaid, TDF Honest Farming, Veal Vet is one of my favorites. They all do a really good job of communicating clearly and factually. But the thing that's actually most important to me is they're really respectful with how they handle questions. Honestly, sometimes I'm a little nervous about sending my audience to certain agriculture advocates just because I don't want them to feel dumb and then not ask a question again, So I think that good communication is super important. Just not thinking they're coming to attack you, which they might be, and then you don't have to have the conversation. But usually it's an honest question and they really just want to know the answer. And they might ask it from a place of ignorance and use the wrong words, and that's okay. They're there. Let's teach them and make them feel good about asking it. You know what I mean?
And appreciate the fact that they came to the source for once instead of asking.
Yes.
So
exactly.
Okay, Allie, if you could pick one message to leave with consumers today, what would that message be?
I think my main message would be, if you have a question, ask a farmer. If you don't know any, ask me and I'll find you one. You could find any type of farmer on social media, for sure. And a lot of times I'll defer to I'm not an expert in, beef production, so I'll defer to my friend Taryn at Faith and Beef because she's really good at explaining things like that. Or, one of my dairy friends. There's so many ways you can learn the truth that are way better than a Google search, because it's just, there's a method to know if something's accurate. Like I said before, I don't expect everyone to be able to do that. That's a learned scientific skill. And if you have it, great. And if you don't need to feel bad about that. Just know who to ask.
And that is what the Grassroots podcast is all about, going directly to the source. So, how do our listeners stay in contact with you?
So if you want to follow me on socials, I'm most on Instagram, and I'm just at Longborn Farm everywhere. And then my website is longbornfarm.com.
Well, thank you so much for being here and taking time out of your day to talk with us.
Sure, anytime. This is what I love talking about, so I'm happy to do it.
Thanks for listening to the Grassroots podcast.
If you loved the show, please subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Plus, share it with a friend, and we will see you next time.